gives a little bit more of a local perspective. As Letitia said, we looked at sort of a more regional focus. So I'm going to look at a couple of specific communities. And although my study was looking more at the sort of socio-ecological impacts about migration and assessing community vulnerability to change, I'll kind of focus on the institutional impacts and responses to migration. There'll be some repetition, but I think that's probably a good thing because it will just reinforce some of the things that have already been said. Okay, so as an intro, commons institutions have always been subject to change, but perhaps that the pace of change and the way change is taking form has changed over the past 3 to 4 decades. There's an awful lot of factors and drivers involved in putting pressures on local institutions. And as Leticia said in the intro, in Mexico, rural to urban migration has been a key driver of demographic and associated cultural change over the past half century or so, yet poorly studied from a commons perspective. So the purpose of the research was to better understand the impact of that change on key commons institutions. And Kajari's already talked about those, but I'll go over them again. And how the people responsible for crafting them are responding to change. And whether migration also offers some opportunities, because the picture so far is pretty bleak. I'm not saying that I'm going to be very positive, but there may be some glimmers of hope in there. So, I was working in Oaxaca. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Oaxaca, but it's arguably the most bioculturally diverse state in Mexico, which itself is a mega diverse country. And I was working in the Sierra Norte, the northern highlands of Oaxaca. Put this thing here. So there you've got Oaxaca, and there is the district of Islan. It's probably, Islan itself, the regional centre, is probably an hour and a half, 2-hour drive from Oaxaca city. And I was looking at 2 different communities. One here is the Zapotec community of San Juan Evangelista Analco. Pretty small. One locality. And this one here is the Chinantec community of Santiago Camaltepec. Much larger. So this area here is on the leeward side of the mountain range. So it's the drier side. So it's tropical dry forest and dry oak forest and pine oak forest up here, and then over the other side, which gets all the moisture up from the Gulf of Mexico, is a lot of cloud forest and then tropical rainforest here. Tropical evergreen forest. And there's 3 different localities here. There's a head village here, and then 2 more agencies here and here. And the point to make here is that both these communities are also municipalities. Right, so it's very important. So they're not only in control of their communal governance, but also their municipal civic governance. I'll give you some photos. That's an algo. Probably taken at this time of year because it's looking pretty green. So this is an alco here, and this is a neighbouring community across the valley. And this is the head village of Santiago Camaltepec, with its peaks behind. So it gives you an idea of what these places look like and their size. Okay, so why did I choose this region? Well, it's kind of, it's one of the places that comes up when we're talking about strong commons institutions in Mexico and community-based conservation. So you've got relatively secure communal land tenure, relatively autonomous, it's not totally autonomous, but relatively autonomous municipal and communal governance, and long-standing college institutions. They've evolved, they've changed, but they've been in place for a long time. So I'll just go over this again. This is what Jerry was talking about. What are these key institutions? So one are these non-paid positions of responsibility, the cargos, and then you have in Oaxaca this system of obligatory work days, collective labour, which are called TECUs, which is something that you'll find in other parts of Mexico as well, under different names. And together, and I think this is very important, those two systems perform functions across village life. So it really is how the village, the community functions. They really are very important. And both depend wholly on the participation of local rights holders, which again is what Pajari was saying. So let's look at the demographic changes to give you an idea of how much they've been impacted, these two communities. My apologies, I'm a sloppy scientist and I've forgotten to label the axis. So this here is resident population, and this is year. But you can see kind of both have lost a big percentage of their resident population. And Alco, it kind of peaked earlier in the late 1970s, and it's fallen since then. It's sort of leveled off in the last 10 years or so to about 400, but that's still a fall of about 60%.